No, I agree. I mean, at the moment, I don't think they're covered by the 1951 convention, and I think people will be very reluctant to change that convention, because once you reopen it, it's a real Pandora's box. So people will probably leave it. So the question is, do you need a new convention, or can they be covered by existing legal instruments about protection of civilians in general, protection of people's human rights and basic rights and so on? And that's an open question which we haven't really discussed yet. I mean, the issue of immigration is a whole other sort of, compensating immigration to allow for responsibility is one which I think might be difficult to negotiate, if I can put it that way. But it's a perfectly fair point in another sense.
Yes. Any more questions? Come on, there must be someone like, yes.
Hi, I'm Robert Egnell from Stockholm Center for Strategic Studies. Now, a rather sensitive issue is the use of military forces for these types of emergencies. Now, it would be really interesting to hear from you if the military was involved in these operations. To what extent? Do you have a rough estimate in terms of percentage? Did you see any problems or certain positive aspects coming out of that? Thank you.
I can try.
Okay, go on, John. This is a diplomatically difficult issue.
I mean, we spend a lot of time sort of thinking about that particular issue, because the relationship between military forces and security forces in a conflict zone and the humanitarian operators is a very delicate and difficult one. And basically, we are trying to keep our distance from all such actors in order to remain independent, impartial, neutral, and simply acting on the basis of need. So in conflict situations, it becomes very difficult, and we would always much prefer the military to stay away. I mean, they have to do what they have to do and maybe create an environment where we can work. But we don't want them to be doing humanitarian operations, because that prejudices the whole nature of what we're trying to do. In natural disasters, it's rather different, of course. We would still say, as a matter of principle, that it's much better if humanitarian relief operations are conducted by civilian actors. But of course, there are very often situations where the military are the ones who have the assets and the speed of response and so on to deal with situations. Pakistan earthquake was a good example. The current emergency in Pakistan is being dealt with largely by the Pakistani military, acting as relief operators, although the international response is civilian. In Myanmar, the response there to the emergency was, well, it was a mixture of all sorts of things, but it was very largely military-led, because it's a military regime, so it was a very natural thing for them to do. And I think they did it as best as they could. They weren't experienced at it, they weren't particularly good at it, but they were doing their best, I think, in the circumstances. And actually the private sector was also recruited as well and did quite a remarkable job in some ways in Myanmar. But in general it does pose problems, so our attitude is one of the military should be the last resort, particularly when there's a conflict situation. If there's a natural disaster and they have assets and speed which no one else can deliver, fine. But if not, let's try and use civilian actors wherever possible and keep the military out of it.
Mr. Hassan.
Yes, I do agree with John Holmans that the military should be the last resort to be used in times of necessity. But in case of Bangladesh, what is the reality? Because in Bangladesh, natural calamities are regular phenomena. And in Bangladesh, we have a sizable military, and we spend a lot of money to maintain this military. And for the last 35 years, we don't have any conflict with any neighboring countries or with any other country. So we are spending a lot of money. So our attitude, yes, we want to tackle the situation through civil administration and through the community. But at the same time, we want to use, in times of necessity, the experience and capacity of the military, and that has been the case in Bangladesh. In 1998, this was done, when two-thirds of the country went underwater. The relief and rehabilitation program was carried out by the government, mainly through the civil administration and by the community. But military also was, capacity of the military was also used, and that gave a lot of, good result. And in 1991, even we got assistance from the foreign militaries, from US military, and that was great help also.
Surin.
Yeah, sorry. You first.
You first, Lenny first. Please.
Go on, Mary.
Yeah.
Go on.
Sorry. I just want to say that we've had a practical situation using the military. And this is a country where we've had so many coups d'etat, and the military did not have a very good reputation. So getting them mixed up in a civilian operation was quite a challenge for the government. But the military saw it as an opportunity to clean up their image. And practically speaking also, there were areas which were marooned. And we had to use the military to drop food and also to parachute in to help evacuate. So in a sense, it's not an either-or situation. It's what the situation calls for. In the process, the military built fences with the population. They took games, they were playing football with them. That was a positive side. And then also we used a lot the military engineers to put bridges across places to improve access in the short run and things like that. So I will say different horses for different causes. As a nation, you use whatever you have, and I agree with you, Honorable, that a lot of money is spent on the military, and they better dig holes which can be used as wells later, or if they have to build a bridge, integrate it into the development plan, let them build in practicing how to put up Bailey bridges. So the bridge is really, they don't tell them I said this, but I've had these ideas since the 70s, you know. So this is it. The military in our countries use a lot of resources, and they better be part of the package of improving the quality of life of the people, whether in time of disaster or even in normal times. Only they should agree that they will not be involved in governance. That's all.
So you may not have expected that response, eh? Final word to Surin, and then we're
Yes.
going to wrap up our
Yes.
discussion.